Hello, poor people. How are you today? Very quickly, I'm going to explain why intelligent people never do well in relationship. You see, this video is tailored to people who have worked as hard as possible, who have explored the ruder terms of psychology in an attempt to build their intellect. So it's not for everybody. You see, at the infancy of my career, I had this idea that being intelligent and charismatic would somehow attract quality women to you, or it somehow makes you good with women. Unfortunately, as I traversed the board, I noticed something very interesting. This was absolutely the opposite. It's either over the course of the interaction, you get friend zoned, which is not the case for me. But in general, it's either you get friend zoned or rejected. So I sat. Why is it that the coveted intelligence is not producing the same outcome as the people with less intellect, less finances, but with more audacity seem to be producing the outcome within matter of seconds? So I had to sit and analyze as a professional. Is there something or is there a character trait contained within intelligence that produces this outcome? Listen very carefully, because what you're about to hear has never been said before, at least in this fashion. I'm bringing to you unique ideas. This is something that will transform your life completely. So pay attention. Pay attention. I've said it here countlessly. Knowledge is the vehicle that moves you from point A to point B. Ignorance is an enemy. Now, the knowledge of this concept you're about to come into, if applied correctly, you would see results now. Sure, there are some concepts where it takes time, you have to engage with process, things of that sort. Not tonight. The first thing I found out is that there are certain traits which is a byproduct of your intelligence that produces this outcome. So this is not an external problem. This is not a you problem. This is not something that's contained with you, but a problem as a consequence of your intelligence. So there are certain traits you embody when you become intelligent that might act as an obstacle to daily interaction. You notice intelligent people are somewhat secluded, they are somewhat awkward. It appears as though the average individual can relate to you, which is a different discourse in and of itself. That's a whole podcast. So let's focus on tonight's teaching. The first is, when you're intelligent, you give up a friend zone energy. And I'll explain to you what that means. You see, intelligence at first is enough to build attraction, but you are so used to process. Remember, how you do the small things is how you do the big things. You are used to reading a book, doing this in order to produce this outcome. So this idea that approaching a lady and having her the same night is a foreign concept. In fact, the only reason you believe in it is because someone else has done it in your presence before your mind could conceive that idea. But if you're the only person on this planet, you would never have dared to conceive such plan. You're so logical, like you think about things in terms of sequence, cause and effect. So for you to get XYZ, or for you to produce this outcome with this lady, you have to text, call, do all of this. And you get upset when you discover she's some cheap whore, someone everybody's. But you notice something. She, in turn, would play the part and try to be hard to get. She would pretend she's something she's not. She would try to match up to your intellectual capacity. It's not necessarily because that's the way she is. She wants you to try hard. She wants you to engage in those process. And you in turn who have things lined up to achieve that outcome, you're exhausting those steps, believing that is the only way to produce the outcome. So intelligence leads to friend zoning. You fear to reach out. You fear to take action. You fear to clarify your points. You are rigid in your approach. In fact, this is a very interesting point I just came out from the top of my head. So once you approach a lady and you go, hi, hello, and she half replies, it's an indicator for you to leave. But unfortunately, for the more audacious guy who's not used to process, and if something doesn't work or if she's not interested, you should leave. I'm speaking to you, my friend. How are you doing? And she half replies, I like your eyes. Thank you. Are they contact lens? No. So you mean you have perfect eyes and a perfect face and a perfect body to go with. Now she's smiling. Now she's kind of interested in this conversation and what you're trying to do. Now the goal is not to insist and she must give me this number. No, that's far from it. If a lady tells you no, leave. This is not trying to encourage blind persistence. It's far from it. If someone definitively tells you no, please leave. But if she half replies, the goal is to keep your dignity. You engage in the conversation, and over the course, you can determine whether the number is a possibility. And if she declines or if she continues to half reply, which is rarely the case, then you leave. At least you leave with your dignity intact, which is the goal, to always leave with your respect. And the problem with intelligent men is, again, you're too logical. It's a byproduct of your intellect. You're logical. You do not like conflict. You avoid conflict. So if someone says no, you quickly disengage. But in reality, these are peasants, people who like to play. Like it's easy. You do not have to come in with such a professional mindset and try to drill everybody into acting in a military way. Sure, there is a place for that, but in general, it's not a wise thing to do, especially considering you're dealing with average individuals. So that's the first one. Your intelligence puts you in a position where your friend zone. Intelligence, that's a byproduct of your intelligence, which leads to number two, you're hesitant. Like I said, you're used to process. You're used to things going a certain way. And this idea that there can be an anomaly and that anomaly can be the rule is mind blowing. So you're hesitant, you're not confident, and women like confidence. For instance, before I share this story, let me put in a few concepts. Confidence is the ability to take the initiatives in relationship. When you're intelligent, you're used to asking for permission. You're trying to clarify interests before you proceed. And this is good. You'll be like, can I do this? Can I do that? But what you do not understand is women are purely emotional. They can like you now and you say something and it dies. They can want to get intimate and you do something and it dies. So the solution by asking permission, the solution is not to ask permission, the solution is to take initiatives. Conversely, on the logical extreme, if a man decides to get intimate, no matter how much you try and upset him, try and disrespect the shit out of him, You will produce that outcome. There are very few of us who do not tolerate disrespect. Once you say XYZ, that's all. It's enough. If you keep repeating this, I'll be forced to throw you out. Uh, get out. Simple. So there are very few people who are willing to enforce their boundaries. You understand? I'll share a story with you. I go to this event, and because of the crowd, I had to park miles away. So at the end, it began to rain. I didn't come with an umbrella. Of course, I blame myself. Anything that happens, good or bad, is my fault. The car parked outside is my fault. The umbrella and the absence of it is also my fault. I do not blame it on some father or some distant relative or something that happened or some unfortunate circumstance. Buying a car is my fault. Not coming with an umbrella is also my fault. So the bad and the good is all my fault. In my world, I always take responsibility for every single thing that happens. There are no, is this person's fault or that person's fault. It's a flawed mindset. So, anyways, by some providence, this lady walks with an umbrella, and quickly I join. Say, hello, how are you today? Where are you headed? Oh, my route. All right, let's go. Because I was so fixated on my location, I didn't want to engage in small talk, and I held her hand. We crossed the road together, and I saw her chuckle a little bit. So this is something I did unconsciously. It's ingrained in my mindset. I don't know how to explain it, but the average intelligent man would request for permission. Oh, please, can I hold your? No, women like surprises. They want to be surprised. Take the initiative. And like I said, I'm not advocating for infringing on people's privacy. I'm not advocating you harass people. I'm not advocating you hold someone's hand who is uninterested. If a lady signals her discomfort, you should stop. So please, let's be guided. So those little things leads to attraction. The reason you're unable to take those steps is because you're logical. You're waiting for permission. Like I said, this is not an external problem. It's a byproduct of your intellect. Your intelligence was gotten in a certain manner. There are tons of experience that led up to that outcome. And nobody leaves what works. That becomes the template across all spheres. Can I process? Process. Hesitant. That's why you find confident men who have lesser attributes having the same girl the same day, and you get upset and you're wondering, I have the intellect, I have X amount. How dare this guy, this common person? Exactly. You're hesitant. Even in a day-to-day relationship, you wake up, you're engaging in conversation, you're texting her constantly, you do not want to make the first move, or in fact, even if you do, it's from a timid standpoint, she can see the fear, you text and hide your phone. What kind of life are you living? You text as a full-grown man and you hide your phone. It's a stupid mindset. So you're hesitant, which is the second one. And the third, last but not the least, your intellect makes you boyfriend material. What I mean by this is, in rare cases, females would prefer to engage in a long-term relationship with you as opposed to get laid. So they leave the latter for the confident guys and the people who I like his vibes, but I'm not going to date this guy. This is not somebody I'm confident enough to represent me publicly. You understand? And they also understand giving up the goods too quickly might make you lose interest. And for the intellectual guy, you're not used to that kind of quick success. And you would not complain because to you, you have to engage in certain amount of days or you have to exhaust your to-do list before you engage in that action. And unfortunately for most people, even when they are done with their 1000th reason of why they should postpone taking action, they still don't do it. It's very interesting, you peasant boys. I don't understand how you people think. It's just a girl. She's a human like you. She's human like you. It's just a human being. Why should there be elaborate discussions about this one thing? So, for the sake of time, there are also positives to being intellectual. For instance, things are easy to you. You do things easier. You find things easy. I said it previously. How you do the small things leads to how you do the big things. So, as an intelligent man, to comprehend situations becomes easier. So, things others will prepare for is already common sense to you. I guarantee you, for instance, let's say I'm applying for a job. In front of the hierarchy in an interview, why do you think we should give you this job over candidate B? Because I'm a professional. I know how to handle my emotion. I know how to handle stress. And please understand, your degree of success is relative to your pressure tolerance. So some people stop moving when the air becomes thinner. So your ability to still perform in debilitating situations is relative to your success, and you're just formulating your thoughts in a very lucid way such that it is transported accurately to the listener. That's what gets you the job. Unfortunately for the average man, although he's able to produce a tinge of success when it comes to females, he can't replicate it. So it becomes easier. Your life becomes easier. Also, if we extrapolate to the discipline it takes, the late night out, the saying no to a lot of things. And most people do not understand this. Saying no alone is a virtue. Your ability in this seeker friendly world to say no, it's a virtue. And that will do you a lot of good in the future. So it's not as though I'm shitting on intellect and saying it's a complete waste of time. You shouldn't do it. No, it's far from it. All I did today was explain accurately the byproduct of intellect that affects your relationship and ability to clap. So for the sake of time, I want you to write down your own flaws. Write down the aspects that most resonated with you, and you'll be fine. And as always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.